The Mario Rosenstock Podcast. Thanks to Hum. Finance made easy when you shop tech, electrical, appliances, kitchens and much more. Flexify Europe Limited, trading as Hum, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Coming up on this episode of the Mario Rosenstock Podcast.
Somebody put up a post somewhere on social media talking about this angel going to heaven. This angel who's going to heaven has been involved in terrorising people for years now, since he was about 12, right? And now he's dead in a horrific crash, the likes of which we have never seen before on our roads. And the people piled on and said, who the fuck do you people think you are? And they're right.
The horrific crash on the M9 involving a car carrying a group of teenage joyriders travelling the wrong way down the motorway has provoked an extraordinary public reaction from the media and from just ordinary everyday people themselves. Crime journalist Paul Williams, special correspondent with the Irish Independent, says that in all his years covering crime, he can scarcely remember a story generating this particular level of anger. And it's thrown a much wider spotlight on juvenile crime, repeat offenders, and whether the state and our criminal justice system are actually equipped to deal with them in the first place. So I asked Paul to come in at short notice and talk me through the story and the public reaction, who these young offenders are, why they appear to feel untouchable, the role of social media and what can realistically be done about it. We also get into Garda resources and pursuit training, deterrence, rehabilitation, and Paul's argument that Ireland needs a juvenile justice system that is actually fit for purpose. And it's fair to say that Paul does not mince his words.
I have never seen such a universal rage amongst the public where there is zero sympathy. That's why the woke dopes who like to get their spake in have remained stunningly silent on all of this. Nobody has tried to offer an alternative narrative to this because you can't. It speaks for itself. Yeah. We are at our most reckless when we're kids. Yeah. When I was 17, I got drunk one night down in Leitrim and stole my mother's car and then drove with all my mates in it and crashed it at about 100 miles an hour. I was drunk. I was extremely wild young fella and I was extremely stupid. They're astonished that when they look now at the squad car driving by them, that they realise that the vast majority of young cops driving these squad cars are not qualified enough to even switch on the sirens and the blue lights. Like, that's something for gift grub, if I ever heard it in my life.
My full chat with crime journalist Paul Williams is coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. But first, students all over Ireland are getting their Leaving Cert results today. And all throughout the next week, they will be hoping to receive offers from the CAO, which come out next week. And David McWilliams, as always, has a unique economic take on it, which should be fascinating to hear on the David McWilliams podcast. Ready to go, David? Ready to rock and roll, John? So a Leaving Cert results special today. Yeah, Leaving Cert. And cue David. How you doing there? It's David here with John. How you doing? As always. And the Leaving Cert is upon us, John. The Leaving Cert results. God, I remember. Oh, I know. I was petrified myself. But of course, the Leaving Cert delivers one of the most educated workforces in Europe. Yeah, that's in turn, attracting valuable multinationals which contribute to GDP. And we're the envy of Europe when it comes to our secondary education, John. It really is an incredible success story. Remember your Leaving Cert results, John? Oh, just about remember, yeah. I remember them as very well. I was very nervous, I remember. Were you? I remember I had a couple of Jack Daniels and Cokes and the Queens to straighten me out before heading up the... What are you talking about, David? What are you talking about? I always hated school, John. I know, Blackrock College was like a Borstal back then. It was literally the school of hard knocks, most John. Exclusive private schools in the country. Told me they had nothing going for me. I'd amount to nothing. They used to leather me around the place. One fella used to headbutt me into the ditch. Don't be absolutely... I'd gone for economics in Trinity on the CAO for the crack. What? But haven't we had such a wayward childhood, burning up houses and stuff on the main streets of Dalkey? What? I knew I'd be spending the best years of my life in the clink, in the joy. That's where I was ended up, John. David, you ended up in Trinity doing economics. I went up to the school to pick up the results. I was on the verge of a blackout from the amount of booze I had. David.
Still just about conscious enough to start smashing the fucking place up.
Listen.
Threw chairs out the windows, smashed the blackboard over the teacher's head, put him into St. James's for 3 weeks, then petrol bombed the fucking staff now. Finally went up to get the results, and as expected, fuck all points. Official. A life of crime lay ahead of me.
You got maximum points and went on to become a professor of bloody
Ended
economics.
up living out of a cardboard box on Killiney Hill.
What?
Tapping up downtrodden locals like Bono and Enya for a few bob to get a hit and a hostel for the night. What a waste of a fucking life I had.
You're an internationally renowned economist.
Well, any advice for the Leaving Cert students? Make the most of your bleeding life. Look what happened to me. And don't start snorting glue like I did.
And we have new and exclusive comedy sketches on this show every week. That means we have hundreds of sketches that you may not have heard. So why not jump back a few months or even years and check out some of the bits you'll find nice and early in every single episode. And if you enjoy what you hear, do us a favour and tell a friend about this show. Just one other person. Even better, send them the link to the episode so they can have a laugh with a simple click. Before we get into the show, a quick word of thanks to Hum, proud sponsors of the Mario Rosenstock podcast. Hum is all about giving you a bit more flexibility in life when you're buying things you need or the things you simply want. Their flexible payment solutions let you spread your cost of your purchases into smaller, manageable payments rather than having to pay for everything in one big lump sum. They've got over 30 years experience globally, and they work with a range of retailers here in Ireland. A huge range is helping customers make everything from those bigger, once-in-a-while purchases to the smaller things that make life that bit nicer. And of course, they're helping us too. Hum's support means we can keep bringing you the Mario Rosenstock podcast with the interviews, the characters and the comedy every week. So a big thank you to Hum for supporting the show. We're delighted to have them on board. Right, let's get into it and meet my special guest on this episode, Paul Williams, special correspondent at the Irish Independent. Paul has been writing a lot about these horrific joyriding incidents in recent weeks, and he started by telling me about the unprecedented level of reader reaction to the coverage.
I have to say, like in the Irish Independent where I work, since they started gauging and measuring audience engagement with stories online,
yes,
this story has broken all records.
Yeah.
I have never seen in the past number of days such a public reaction to a story. I can't remember I can't remember it happening like this before. You had one of the dead kids. The parents put up, or the family put up a thing on RIP.ie. It had to be taken down because there was an overwhelming response from the public.
Negative.
And you can, very negative, clearly. But that will tell you, that's the way of gauging public sentiment on this. The public are absolutely enraged. And what it has done is, it has focused minds on a really critical crisis in our criminal justice system. And that is that a cohort, now a significantly small minority of feral, out-of-control kids with clearly no parental control or any kind of functional background have been running riot for years now, stealing cars, targeting areas, marauding into people's estates, smashing in, terrorising families, breaking into their houses, taking the keys of their cars, taking their cars, driving like absolute lunatics, and this tactic of driving down the wrong way down motorways because they know the guards can't follow them. And what it illustrates is this: it has illustrated this massive gap in our protection of our society.
Yes.
Like, it's got to a stage now where people are openly talking about, Jesus, I don't think I have to go to the airport early. I think I won't go on the motorway.
I absolutely agree. I sent, look, Paul, I sent a text to my wife and I said, just be careful on the motorway.
Yeah.
She said, why? Just people driving up the wrong. And I said to her, I followed her and go, okay, in fairness, it usually happens late at night or early in the morning kind of thing.
The time you feel you're most safe.
Yeah,
you're safest,
I suppose.
Supposedly,
yeah, on the road. Yeah, and but the fact that I texted her, I would never have texted her about something like that. It was just this. It was the sheer innocence of the people that were hurt on their way to England to the airport with their bags.
Absolutely.
And as we speak, they are all critically ill in hospital. And
but
God bless them. I
saw one. I don't do this. impartial bullshit when it comes to stuff like this. Somebody put up a post somewhere on social media talking about this angel going to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
This angel who's going to heaven has been involved in terrorising people for years now, since he was about 12, right? And now he's dead in a horrific crash, the likes of which we have never seen before in our roads. And the people piled on and said, who the fuck do you people think you are? And they're right, because you know what? We've got so woke and so cuddly, and let's blame. I'm waiting for the first woke dope to come publicly and say, oh, these poor children were let down by the state.
Mm-hmm.
They were let down by this, they were let down by... Because everybody blames the state and the government and But like 8 kids in a car the previous week, exactly a week earlier, on Sunday morning, not far from where I live on Fairhouse, 8 of them. One is 13 years of age. Where's mommy and daddy? And this mill into this other, what would you call us, a pillar of community, a young 22-year-old lad who has works hard, has a normal life, works hard to be normal and a functional member of society. And they destroy his life, just milling into him. And then they realise, the public have realised as a consequence of this, okay, it's focused attention on social media, which is a driver, and it's the dark side of social media. We've always talked about that. The sewers of social media. You have a very positive side to it, but then you have an exceptionally negative and malign and malignant side to it. But that apart from that, what it has astonished people mostly is that, I've written a piece about this in the Irish Independent today. These are people who come up and talk to me about it, say, they're astonished that when they look now at the squad car driving by them, that they've realised that the vast majority of young cops driving these squad cars are not qualified enough to even switch on the alarm, or to switch on the sirens and the blue lights. Mm-hmm. That's something for gift grub, if I ever heard it in my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the bigger picture is that you've heard of the social contract theory and Thomas Hobbes and what the whole concept of the collective giving up a collective a degree of their liberty and their freedoms so that society can function as a cohesive unit, right? As part of that, the concept of police was invented to protect the people within the social contract, which is all of us, protect the society, maintain law and order. Whenever, the public perceive, either rightly or wrongly, and I'd say a lot of the time, perhaps correctly, that, that the state is not able to take these people on, or is perceived not to be able to take these people on, or are perceived to not have the resources or the training or the capabilities to prevent certain crimes and maintain law and order, then that breaks the social contract. Yeah. You hear a lot of bullshit from lefties, extreme left socialists talking about, the social contract is broken, and politicians like to use it because somebody mentioned Thomas Hobbes once to them and they read the piece on the back of the Weetabix box. And but that is an example, a clear example of a breach. And that's why government and the state must do something about it.
Yeah.
I know that's the bigger...
Let's talk about that in a minute. What do we know about this? Is it a gang or is it just a loose collection of...
They're a loose collection of...
When they say loose, are they connected with each other?
These guys are all connected to each other, but they are part of, I think, what the Gardaí are calling, and my colleagues in the Independent and other journalists are calling, the Lucky Dip gang. Now, I've never had much interest in them. I just more juvenile crime. I was covering this stuff, guys killing people on the roads 25 years ago. And this Lucky Dip gang, I suppose they were that the police dubbed them that because they would just go into an area, pick an area on Google Maps, saturate it, 6, 7, 8 of them, break into houses, get keys of cars, steal cars, rob whatever they could find in the houses, and then go jousting with the police. And then, as well as that, filming themselves and live stream it on social media. Now, these guys, these 5 kids, there's a really good piece in today's Irish Independent about it by Robin Schiller and Ken Foy, which really puts it in perspective. And these young lads, all of them, were in and out of custody and in and out of were being arrested on a regular basis. Like they were a number of them were involved in an incident not long ago, about a month or so ago, where they'd stolen this big Jeep, and I think it's gone viral on social media, and they drove across an innocent man on a bicycle and caused what we call life-changing injuries. But we don't think about that because we hear life-changing injuries. But that some poor guy out there was minding his own business on a pavement in Carlow in the middle of the day, and these guys tried to get her in a big 4x4 and to drive across him. So they have been like the young lad, the young lad whose name is Kamil Pushkowski. Mm-hmm. Like, he's 17, and the guys in the Indo have written this his whole life story so far, and he's notorious. And he was on practically all of them have been arrested for similar offences: stealing, being carried in stolen cars, all part of this chaotic syndrome that we're now witnessing. Yeah. And they're arrested, brought before the courts and released on bail. There is no system to control them. There is no place to hold them. And that, when a certain cohort in society believes that they're totally untouchable and can do what they like, that's a recipe for disaster. And that disaster, the cumulative effect of all of that was the other morning on the M9 motorway.
Exactly. Now, I suppose they feel that they're untouchable, right? So I suppose you tell me, do they feel they're untouchable because of their age and the fact that they won't be incarcerated and the fact that there's nobody to hold them? And do they also feel untouchable because this so-called driving up the wrong way business, they know the guards, which I only found out this morning, obviously the guards, but it makes sense, it's self-explanatory, can't follow them. But
for all of those reasons.
So for all of those reasons. Yeah. Now,
that's very dangerous, by the way. It's very dangerous in the society. Like, then again, somebody has to ask the question, who are their parents? Where did they live before? One of them I read briefly again, my colleagues wrote that, one of them had been in and out of care. So that's a dysfunctional background.
But this is in a sense like, do you remember, I'm a fan of like World War II documentaries, right?
Me too.
Yeah, and like people would be familiar with the Pacific and with kamikazes.
Yeah.
And kamikaze is basically one Japanese fighter pilot in a plane who, like Stuka style, dives into an American aircraft carrier or a destroyer and destroys everybody on board, kills everybody on board. So this is in a sense like a kamikaze mission, where you're taking out members of the public with this machine that can travel at 150 miles an hour. This is a BMW, wasn't it?
Yeah, that they paid €1,000 for.
Which apparently somebody else had paid €1,000 for, right?
Yeah, on their behalf, or that somebody had bought it and these guys were driving it.
But did they not steal it then?
I don't know. It was originally believed that it was a stolen car, but it's not a stolen car. It was bought with €1,000, perhaps by these lads or somebody representing them.
Right. Okay.
But the kamikaze part about it, like the tragedy of this, the really appalling tragedy of this is that, they don't have any appreciation for any kind of consequences. The only consequences are being critically injured or killed. Like, let's just talk about the accident for a second.
Yeah.
I'm like you, sitting at home watching all of this unfold and reading the words and reading between the lines in the reports that our colleagues are filing.
Yeah.
Because we are, we don't go into the graphic, gory, grotesque details. But when you hear that the emergency services were at the scene of this impact it seemed like a good few hours before, and the wording was before they could assess. In other words, the injuries were of a level that were just off the Richter scale. But then that they discover after several hours, maybe as many as 10 hours, as they're lifting the car or whatever, they discover there's another body there.
Yeah.
Like that, when I heard that, I said, my God, because what a way to die, what a way to go. However, having said that, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, I have never, in all the years I've been doing this job, and all the years, just gauging public opinion, seen such an absolutely universal rage amongst the public, where there is zero sympathy. That's why I said to you earlier that the woke dopes who like to get their spake in have remained stunningly silent on all of this. Nobody has tried to offer an alternative narrative to this because you can't. It speaks for itself.
What about their own personal safety, these boys? I mean, what are we supposed to presume? I mean, they're presuming that they're doing it. We're hearing that they're doing it for
likes,
the kicks and the likes and the streaming of the same, so that they can show off and they can be, they can gain clout and kudos in this social online situation. But what about their own personal safety? I mean, surely, even though they're 13 or 15 or 17, they have the cognitive ability to understand that their lives are in grave danger going up the wrong way on a motorway. Do they not kind of go, I don't want to die? Or
I think that, we're at our most reckless.
Sure. When you're that
we're
age.
Kids.
Yeah.
Like I did, my wife reminded me of this recently. When I was 17, I got drunk one night down in Leitrim and stole my mother's car and then drove with all my mates in it and crashed it at about 100 miles an hour.
Did you?
Yeah. And I do, that part of me says, when I'm trying to understand what happened here, like I was drunk. I was extremely wild young fella and I was extremely stupid. And I did that to my mother's car and nearly killed myself and my mates. But the point about it is that a lot of us, the most dangerous time in our lives, I think, is from the
Can I just be devil's advocate for a second? I know two boys, right? Two lads who are now my age, because when we were in college, first year, they took their dad's car and they drove it at 130 miles an hour down the motorway. Right?
The wrong way?
No, not the wrong way.
Right.
And I suppose what I'm saying is, I'm just being devil's advocate here. They were building in, even though they were 19 or whatever, they were building in a calculated risk.
Yeah.
As in, we're driving the right way. We're just being assholes. But they're driving the right way. I'm saying, when you're driving the wrong way, this completely changes the nature of it changes the nature of the dynamic completely. You are very possibly likely to get life-changing injuries or die at driving at over 100 miles an hour against the traffic. So but obviously that happened. So that's all.
But you see, I saw the difference where we call that in criminology primary deviance. I didn't do it again. I learned my lesson pretty quickly, and I was embarrassed and ashamed, and my father nearly killed me, and the guards had dealt with me as well at the time. And your mates probably paid a price for doing what they did. These young fellas have done it many, many times. Yeah. And it's that recklessness and it's that dysfunctionality as well, the combination of the dysfunctionality in their lives. And there's also a piece and one of the pieces I wrote in the Indo this week was that, it's also perhaps you can add in a bit of ketamine and cocaine or whatever other pharmaceutical shit that kids are taking these days. Yeah. And you add that into the cocktail.
That's right.
Cocktail
and then that gives you fearlessness.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask you about this thing more about the social contract, right? Where do I start with this? I'll cut in through the side door, okay?
Okay.
We're an incredibly rich country.
Well, apparently somebody said that, all right, but I don't
we are. That. It's categorical.
Yeah.
It's unequivocal. We are an incredibly rich country. If we really needed the money for another COVID or COVID on steroids.
Now, there's a big argument. There's a brilliant
COVID analyst. On steroids. We would find the money. Yeah. You would find.
Oh yeah, the BB's down the back of the.
You'd find Micheál Martin. Well, obviously, the people need to be reimbursed for looking at their computer for 6 months and doing nothing. We would pay them out, right? So that would be found.
You should ring Andy Burnham, by the way, as well. You probably get away with that too.
Well, so where? Why can't we? Like this is really, really serious now. The personal life safety of normal people just going about their business. So what's wrong here, Paul? Am I right in saying that there's not enough Gardaí? Or not enough trained Gardaí?
There's not enough trained Gardaí.
There's no Garda Pursuit, for example, in this.
But then again, just hold on to that for a second. Even if you had the best trained pit manoeuvre cops in the world, in the Garda Síochána, they still would have to think twice before they hit down a motorway after a car 100 miles an hour going the wrong way.
Understood. Yeah. So what's wrong? So what do we need? Do we need more deterrence? Is deterrence?
Well, we do. First of all,
if deterrence is the answer, what is the deterrence?
We need an infrastructure, a juvenile criminal justice infrastructure that's fit for purpose. How does that work?
Good.
You build, if we have any value in our young people, we need to build. We need to create the space. We need to build an institution or institutions that are big enough and designed to hold these kids if they're detained, but that within that there is a very vigorous and robust system of rehabilitation and counselling.
Yes.
There is none of that going on at the moment, and has never gone on. Remember the last time, this isn't new in that joyriding, when I came to Dublin first in 1987, reached its pinnacle. I remember stories in the front page of the Evening Herald talking about there was something like, at one stage in Dublin City, I'd never forget this because I wrote about it in one of my books afterwards when I was doing a history of organised crime and the development of crime in Ireland. In 1987, at one stage, in one particular week, there was something like 3 or 4 squad cars left in Dublin. The rest of them had been milled off the road.
Is that right?
By joyriders. And what did the state do? The state then opened up Spike Island, to put the young delinquents onto Spike Island. Now, then they all rebelled and burned the place down. But for quite a while after that, and I'm not saying that's the approach we should take now. I think the approach should be rehabilitative and holistic as well. But that, it died down. The whole problem of joyriding died down then. It's a perennial thing. In 2002, there were 2 guards in Stillorgan were two lads in a car came around in a stolen car. They were trying to stop them. Again, coming down the Stillorgan dual carriageway. I think they might have been travelling the wrong side of that as well. But they milled into the squad car and killed 2 guards.
Oh, God.
But these young lads never showed any remorse because 10 years later, 15 years later, they're up in front of the courts again.
But this is what we need to spend our money on.
Yeah.
The social contract you talked about, which is we exchange a bargain with leaders to offer us some collective safety. This is what needs to be done. I'm sorry, but another thing that people are stunned by about the level of training police are getting in this country. The fact is that up until Sunday, the Garda Representative Association, the Association of Garda Sergeants and Inspectors, and everybody I've ever talked to in the Guards was saying, we really need to start training our people to a high level in terms of pursuit. Yes.
Pursuit training, pursuit driving, but also interceptors, all of that kind of stuff. And they're not done. And I'll tell you why wasn't done. And I've been asking this question for the past few days because we've been writing about it extensively in the Indo, is that a lot of people, the management culture in An Garda Síochána was risk averse. We don't want to cause any trouble. We don't want to be doing that. We had a commissioner here for 7 years who was Leo Varadkar, brought in from the PSNI and Joe Harris, and it didn't work. It didn't work for him or the police here. But he was going to modernise all of this and everything was going to be rosy in the garden. And over that nearly 8 years, nothing at all was done. All that was done was that we saw more and more. Again, the public were astonished to see so many guards being suspended from their jobs and their lives being suspended in midair because they might have loaned a bicycle to a pensioner. It's where the lines between logic and illogicality sort of blur.
Yeah, okay. So we're just talking about these boys and we're talking about the social contract. And then that kind of comes on as well with the recurring theme of, I can't walk down O'Connell Street or I can't walk into Talbot Street at a certain time. And that part of the city is a kip and it's just crawling with needles and all this sort of stuff. And, you're kind of going like, isn't this not sort of 101 basically, the basics of we need to kind of sort this out as a community, as a country? Bearing in mind, again, I would stress, we are loaded. And let nobody ever forget that when history passes by and history will come and the future will come, they will look back on this time and go, how flush were we at this time? The money needs to be spent, I'm saying.
But it's all...
Isn't that right or not?
It's going back to...
Doesn't the money need to be spent, Paul?
Of course it does.
Okay, all right.
But the Chicago School of Criminology was the major seminal report was done in 1926-28. It was a long study, a longitudinal study, and it studied the whole environment of how cities, the human ecology and the ecological landscape works. And basically, the first page of Ladybird version is that, rich people and, you have nice rich areas and people move out of the areas and then they leave the certain scanger areas. So we dump everything there. It's like having a human dump. And it's like, I listen to some, like it is a fact that the North Inner City has the highest number of homeless people in the country. And that's because they're being shipped in there. And a lot of refugees and people seeking asylum seekers have been shipped in there. And then, because then it's completely skews and the organic sort of balance within those communities. And then that leads to the rise of knuckle-dragging right-wing fascists, and you want to burn them out and do all this kind of stuff, and that's wrong. And that's why the inner city is in the mess it is. But it's not acceptable. That's our national boulevard. You're right. And like they did it many years ago in New York. Like New York was a kip.
That's right.
Until the early 90s.
In every film you see in the 1970s that's set in
bleak,
New York.
wasn't it?
No, but in every film that you see set in the 1970s, they make a feature out of the fact some character will go, this place is a dump.
Dereliction everywhere.
You know what? You want me to go in and get New York and get stabbed and get killed? I don't want that. But that was full of criminals. Remember the place, Starsky and Hutch and all this. Do you remember? If you remember the
Kojak,
the streetscape.
Yeah, it always looked bleak.
But the bins were always emptied on the street.
Yeah.
But
the thing about that
before
is
Rudy Giuliani came along.
But then
I mean, lunatic Rudy Giuliani.
Before he became a lunatic. And before 9/11,
was one of the best mayors of New York.
Yeah. But the problem then was that, then a real lunatic criminal got into the White House, and then COVID came, and apparently COVID has changed. Going back to ourselves here in Ireland and everywhere else, especially with our young people. It really did discombobulate the young population. But a friend of mine who's grew up at a mate of mine, he was NYPD all his life and he just retired a few years ago, and he was telling me that, like New York, he's saying that in his Irish accent still, he says, it's a fucking kip. And he said, we were there in the days when we cleaned up New York City, and there was you got to a level of cleanliness and order that they maintained. And as soon as they took their eye off the ball, it collapsed. And that's apparently what has happened in New York. So New York was a great example of what we should do with the North Inner City, for example. And now it's not.
Another aspect of it is just your own life cycle, and the fact that you're born, you're a teenager, you get into your 20s. If you're lucky, you go to college, you do a career, and then you have children, and you might get a partner and buy a house even, and then you find yourself just seeing the same things over and over again. And maybe for the first time in your life, in your early 30s, you go, wouldn't it be nice if they could clean up the inner city, or clean up O'Connell Street and make it our boulevard? And then you find yourself 15 years later saying the same thing again, and nothing has changed. And then you find yourself 15 years after that just saying the same thing, and nothing at all has changed.
The only thing that does change is that the volumes have increased. Like back in the 80s when I came here first, we used to go and buy heroin on the streets and stuff like that. It was like great fun, young reporters doing undercover stuff, and it was just great buzz because we watched too many episodes of Starsky and Hutch at that stage and all of that. But at that time you could buy heroin quite openly and easily, but ever since then it has grown exponentially. The number of addicts, like I remember at one time back in 87 there was officially something like maybe 5,000 heroin addicts in Dublin.
Okay. It
was a Dublin centric problem. Now it's absolutely everywhere. And there are, like, I wouldn't be afraid. I just don't like being in the city. I went to see, I'd say about the last couple of times I went, maybe going out to gigs down in the Tree, and I just don't want to go there anymore. I don't want to be in the inner city. I said to my colleagues down at Talbot Street, how in the name of Christ, lads, do you work in here? But what the police have done, and which they are spending money on, and which is really working, is this HVP, high visibility policing. People are noticing it. A lot more cops on the streets. And like, I live in Rathfarnham, very little crime, as you might know. And but there's a cop always in the village. Rathgar, There's a couple of cops always there now, patrolling around.
Is this part of the HPV?
Yeah, and it started in Dublin.
HVP.
High visibility police.
Is this a new...
It started about a year ago. A very bright cop who is now the Deputy Commissioner, Paul Cleary, started it. He's an Assistant Commissioner at the time. It has really, really worked. And it's not as cynical, because we watched all this crap before.
It wasn't just for show.
Yeah, because every time there's a problem, there has been a problem traditionally, we throw 10 million at it. And then that's there, and the guards are all out until it's eaten up in overtime and everybody disappears. What they've done now for the past year, over a year and a half now, maybe more, and they've rolled it out to Limerick and Galway and Cork, and they're rolling out to big towns and all over Dublin. It really is working. Like, although you're looking at the cop in Rathfarnham hasn't very much to do, but the thing is, the cop is there, and it's obviously creating a very secure feeling for the public.
Okay.
And it is probably the best bit of PR they have. But it requires, you'll see now.
All right, well, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, but what's going to happen, if we just continue with your thesis about us having all this money and spending it, they're going to start pulling resources from other parts of the Garda budget.
Okay.
Because they won't be able, and that would be one where you'd say, why wouldn't you take 50 million extra and stick it into the budget to pay for that alone?
Okay, change of subject. Change of angle. Do you think that in this country, because you've been obviously, studying criminology and crime and criminals for 40 plus years, do you think the nature of our system in Ireland is banjaxed when it comes to dealing with this problem? And do you think, for example, I'll just throw this out there, right? A far tougher approach, a noticeably tougher approach to crime should be necessary in this country? Or are you, because you did mention holistic and rehabilitative stuff there earlier on.
A lot of them aren't, but you have to have a system that is holistic and rehabilitative, centred. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to rehabilitate them or you're going to cure them, because the vast majority of these kids are doing this stuff are long lost, because they're already recidivists by the time these poor kids, these lads between 15 and 17 were classified as recidivists when they killed themselves. But I think what has happened somewhere along the line is in terms of control, and it became a dirty word for the police to arrest people. It's now you can get too soft as a society. When you have young people who basically the only preventative or deterrent in terms of consequences for their actions is that they get mashed up in a horrific wreck.
But that's what I'm asking you.
That's like so.
So, for example, I'll throw in another.
That's why I said we need places to.
I'll throw in another example. I'm not a student of this subject, and you can hopefully help to correct me. But as far as I know, if you go to Singapore, you will find that the level of crime is very low. I'm open for correction on that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
Korea,
I will. Okay, South Korea
Japan.
as well. South Korea.
Yes.
Okay.
Japan.
So I will then posit an argument. I'm guessing that the deterrents for criminality there are extremely high.
But it's also as well, it's a cultural and societal symptom. Because the people are educated to be respectful citizens from the time they're born in those communities. Because
Sounds like that's a very general sort of statement. Are you saying that in Ireland we're not?
No, we're not
educated to be respectful citizens.
But the vast majority of our people are. But I've been looking at this thing so many years. Like the Guard, would you say, and used to drive certain academics crazy. But the Guard would turn around and say to you, they go down to the maternity unit in Rotunda or the Coombe, and they'll find out who's on the baby list. And this is this theory is as old as the hills, and I absolutely believe it. Like hard-nosed, experienced cop would be able to tell you the life stories of at least 5 or 10 of these new babies every day or so. Tell you what they're going to be, what's going to happen to them.
Statistically.
Because they knew what they were being born into. And like you see, children are innocent, beautiful creatures. And you don't it's the environment into which they're born. And then there's the combination of DNA as well, which people don't like to talk about either because it's probably not PC. But your DNA, you see people pick up the traits from their parents. The DNA, if there's a certain kind of psychopathy, yes, it can be inherited. And then the environment that they grow up in.
Paul, I always characterised you in my sketches little unfairly as I'm Paul the Scroat Williams and I'm going to label these guys with a nickname you haven't thought of yet, but I have. Right? But actually, you're far deeper than that.
Oh, really? Am I?
Well, you are. You are far deeper, you know.
This is like a counselling.
You're slightly to the right of me, but I still like you.
Slightly to the right of you, am I?
Well, I'm not the kind that goes around I'm a little woke.
I could smell a little bit of that. I could smell a bit of that far right little smoke coming off you there just a few minutes.
No. It's because I'd be in your world. I'd be probably a little woke. Now,
I'm woke too.
Huh?
I'm bloody woke. Hang on a minute.
You just
come here, I'll go over there and give you a slap now. No. I tell you why.
I thought you were far right.
I'm a Gervaisian.
Well, he's not woke.
No, but he lays it out. I did one of those awful things that I'm ashamed of because I have kids who are woke, right? Oh, God. Anyway, particularly my daughter. But I did one of those, those surveys you do.
Yeah.
Honest, when you're sitting on the phone.
Did you come out woke?
Oh, fuck yeah, worse than that.
Great.
Oh, no, very far left.
Did you?
Yeah, really.
My son, he's 18, he calls me far
pink
left.
And posy type shit.
My son calls me far left.
Yeah, but I was telling you, but here's the thing. I'm like Ricky Gervais. I cut the line when all these other bastards are starting to scream everybody else down and repress free speech and people talking about issues.
Understand.
And
me too.
That's where you find your inner right wing.
Fascism itself. That is a complete fascism.
It is totally. It is the new.
It's repressive.
Oppression.
It's oppressive and it's oppressive.
And we were talking about that lunatic before. That lunatic in the White House. He came in probably as a reaction to that overwoke nonsense.
Paul, most interesting to talk to you, and thank you for coming in to talking to me. And congratulations on this award you were given recently.
Oh,
for Veronica Guerin. Tell me about that. That was really interesting. And it was a surprise.
I'm still shocked. It was Jimmy Guerin organised this spectacular event called a commemoration for Veronica on the 26th of June to remember her. And John McColgan sent Riverdance troupe to dance at it, and Christy Moore wrote a special song and played it, and the Taoiseach was there, and the ministers were there, and Jimmy raised over 142,000 for the hospice in Raheny, which he felt that would most, it would best suit Veronica's legacy and what she would have liked the best. But it was a very emotional Friday night at the end of a very, very emotional week at the 30th anniversary. And in the middle of that, somebody got on stage. It was Cormac Burke, the group editor-in-chief of the Indo group, and I was paying no attention, sliding into the wine, sitting beside my friend Paul Reynolds and Joe Duffy, and next thing they just announced this, called me up on the stage and presented this award to me, which for the first time in my life, Mario, I was stuck for words. Couldn't speak. I was overwhelmed, and when I opened this box and I saw this picture of myself and Veronica, I started to cry in front of 500 people. The only words I could come out with. So
I'm looking at it here. It's a big picture of Veronica on screen in the convention centre, and you right beside her. It just says, presented to Paul Williams in recognition of your distinguished contribution to investigative journalism and for honouring and safeguarding Veronica's legacy, the Guerin family.
It was a really nice. It was one of the most humbling things I have ever got in my life. It took me. But the thing was that I got no indication.
Yeah.
And then I discovered all these people knew about it beforehand.
Oh, that's nice. And the last thing I would say to you is, I know you're a great fan, and I am as well, of our friend Michael Flatley.
Yeah.
Jesus, he's a great man. Do you know that there's two different Michael Flatleys, Big Abs? There's the original Michael Flatley, and he was the huffing and dancing and be Jesus and Begara Michael Flatley. And then Michael Flatley got older, didn't he? And his voice went older as well.
Did it?
And now he's like that, Big Abs.
I always thought
Jesus, he's the fella in Blackbird. He'd blow your head off.
Whenever I see him, I think of you for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. I remember your granddaddy, the Tinker Williams. Jesus, he was the biggest tinker in Leitrim.
I told you a story about my granddad before we go. I've told the story by accident one day, and somebody said, "Geez, you got to tell that." Many years ago, myself, my son, who's very young, and my dad were sitting together in our house in Ballinamore. And I was looking up at a picture of my granddad, who obviously I didn't know because he died in the 40s. And he was sitting there, you know, it was him and my granny and the three oldest kids of the Williams family. And I said, what was Grandad like? And he said, yeah, because he made his money in America. He was a rancher in Oregon, and then he came home and bought a castle in Leitrim, which all sounds great, but it was all bullshit. The castle fell down anyway. But I said, what was he like? And he said, like the rest of us, he wasn't a very big man, but he's a hardy dude. He liked his whiskey and stuff like that, and he was good. Yeah. And I said, yeah. He said, if you look closely at the picture, you will notice that your grandfather's ear, this side, on this left side, there's part of it missing. So I looked closely. It was a really old black and white sepia picture. And I looked at it, and sure enough, there was a part of my granddad's ear missing. And I said, why was my granddad's ear missing? And he was saying, because my dad was really cool, sort of dirty smoking. Well, he said he was in Oregon, and he was in a saloon one night, and he had a row with an Indian. And he breaks it. This dad would tell the story like this. Yeah, and what? When he had a row with the Indian bit his ear off. And I goes, oh. Well, what happened then? Your granddad shot him. Just like that. And I goes, oh, Jesus. And because I remember the gun, because the gun was in the family. It was a little 4-bullet thing, looked like bronze-coloured gun he had with him, because everyone carried a gun that time in America, obviously. And I said, what happened? Well, he said they put the Indian on a table, carried him across to the other street to a medicine man or some kind of doctor, and took out the bullet, stitched them up, and the two of them went back drinking together again. So you were being quite insightful when you mentioned that my grandpappy was a scrote like me.
The Tinker Williams.
The Tinker Williams.
Fantastic story. We'll leave it there. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, my friend. Well done. Lovely.
And my thanks to Paul Williams for coming in and telling me about this very, very, very sad and disturbing new trend in Irish society. My thanks, of course, as well to Hum for getting involved in the Mario Rosenstock podcast and being a great sponsor of ours. And my thanks especially to you, the listener. If you want to get in touch with me, it's mariorosenstock@gmail.com. I read them all and get back to most of them. But until next week, take it easy. Bye for now.
The Mario Rosenstock Podcast. Thanks to Hum. Finance made easy when you shop tech, electrical, appliances, kitchens, and much more. Flexify Europe Limited, trading as Hum, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.